Hello, everybody. This is Clayton Smith. I'll be your instructor in strategic enrollment planning this term. What I'd like to do is introduce myself, and then at the very end, what I'm going to do is ask you to do something for all of us and introduce yourself. I'll tell you about that in a bit. First, about me. Some of you will know me as Dr. Clayton Smith. That's sort of the formal title, that sort of thing. Professor at the University of Windsor, associate faculty here. And some of you might say, well, maybe I'll just shorten that a bit and call him Dr. Smith, and that's okay too. Lancer Clayton is my Twitter handle. I share that with you here because I want you to think about joining my network in enrollment management as we go forward. But I also want us to stay in touch. I want us to stay connected. So Lancer Clayton, my Twitter handle, or Clayton as my first name. Here are a couple of pictures that I share with you from my garden. These are pictures that represent the kind of beauty that I like to grow and to see in my life, and so I share them with you as a place to start. Here is a shot from a canoe trip I took a few years back. It's in a place called Vassalboro, Maine. You need to know that I am originally from Maine. And this is a shot looking from the bow of the canoe on toward a birch tree, a white birch tree in the distance. And you can see that it's growing up. You can see that it's growing out. You can see that it's reflecting in the water. And to me, this absolutely speaks to the way I teach, the way I hope you'll learn. And that is, we'll reach individually, we'll reach over, we'll reach out, and we'll reflect back. And each of us will see that in some magical way, and that will be the learning that we'll achieve right here in this course. These are a couple of shots of some national parks in Canada. And the one on the upper left, of course, you'll recognize as Lake Louise. And the lower right, maybe you not recognize it. This is Point Pelee, which is near where we live in Windsor, in the middle of the winter. It's a sort of winter art, I suppose. And you don't get to see this quite often in our area because we're the furthest south in Canada and a little bit of a different ecosystem. But it's a captivating shot. So to show my affinity for visiting national parks, which I like to do in any country. These are a couple of shots of some international travel that I've done. As you'll learn along the way, I have been involved in international work for a very long time. And the one shot on the left is a shot of the Mexican pyramids. Many of us have heard about the Egyptian pyramids, which I've been to as well. But these are the Mexican ones, and I thought that'd be kind of a neat shot. And then over here on the right, this is a colleague from the University of Windsor who went back home to Sapporo, Japan. And this is in Sapporo, when I was visiting him setting up an articulation agreement at the time. Some places I've worked, places I've studied, some consulting I've done. I have a bit of a broad perspective, which I share with you, and it comes from all these various experiences. Plan A, B, C, and D is the way I kind of describe my career. Many people would think that, well, you teach for a living, you must have wanted to be a professor. Well, that's actually not how it started. I started off with 3 political science degrees, thinking that I was going to work in government. I helped write the memoirs for a United Nations Secretary General, worked for a United States Senator, was a town manager for a bit. But along the way, you know, it just didn't fit for me anymore. And so I went to work at a university. And at first it was in admissions and recruitment and those kinds of things, because I thought that connected to economic development and community betterment and those kinds of things. And then one thing led to another and to another and to another. I found myself in this field of enrollment management, student affairs, student engagement, internationalization, academic governance, all of the different slices of the things that we've been talking about here. Here's a slide that shows you some of the work I've done in enrollment management. It's the upper graphic there is from the ACRO, that's American Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, conference on strategic enrollment management, which has been my pleasure to lead for the past several years. Slight advertisement, we've got a conference every year, so you're welcome to join us for that. The picture in the middle is actually from the Canadian SEM Summit that I ran for about a decade with a colleague, Susan Gottheil. This one is actually some of my Windsor students in the background here, as I love to talk and facilitate sessions at those kinds of meetings. SEM in Canada was a book I wrote with Susan and about 22 other colleagues from across the country, which we're currently updating. And the last one here, you see this international guide. This is a piece I wrote, a piece on student success, international student success for. And lastly, you can see the graphic below. I do some consulting work with ACRO as well. Professor Defined, this is, I think, a great place to start the conversation about how do I teach? And so here are some graphics. You have Professor Moriarty here from Sherlock Holmes fame. And Professor Moriarty is one of these. From the Latin, perhaps, a person who professes, being of usually the highest expertise in their field. Or, according to Merriam-Webster, professes, avows, or declares, which makes it a kind of a one-way conversation. And I think you might expect that from Professor Moriarty. But, you know, you shouldn't expect it from me. This is not how I like to operate. You don't sit there and I sit over here. We're going to do things a little bit differently. So here's my teaching philosophy. I'm about individual student learning for sure, and you will learn things individually. You'll also learn things together, and we'll come to that in a bit. Pursuit of knowledge is important. I am always about learning new things. And in fact, one of the things that I hope that comes out of our course and our time together is the possibility that we might work together on a book on this field of strategic enrollment planning. Self-improvement, always about getting better at all the things that I do and work with you and the things that you do. And of course, very important is the idea of respecting self and others, but especially in these pandemic times. I want to talk just a little bit about research. These are some of the projects that I've got currently have in motion. The first one is a Canadian enrollment leader's reflection on the effectiveness of strategic enrollment management. I have a piece coming out on that actually as we speak that'll involve interviews with 23 enrollment leaders from across the country who told us a little bit about what they think of SEM. And I'll be sharing some of that with you in this class. Several pieces on international, micro-discrimination, South Asians' perspective on cultural insensitivity on a campus, achieving sense of belonging at Ontario secondary schools, and then there's one more that we've just started out with, and this idea of learning about student mentoring in a post-secondary concurrent education program. This is a slide that talks to you about who I am and how to get more information should you need that. This is back on my Windsor site. You can see information on research, service, and teaching. So if you want to learn more and are involved in any of those kinds of things, it's there. My e-portfolio. A blog is here. These are the things that I think about from time to time. No special rhyme or reason. I just like to get them out there. And then there's some links there you can refer to as well. And of course, if you want to learn more about Windsor, here's a link to our view book. Supporting your education journey is really important to me. Office hours, I actually am not listing any office hours for this class. Instead, I suggest they're virtual. So at any time, you can contact me at the email you see there. You'll see that I generally respond within about a day's time, and we can set something up. But know that I'm available. Now I want to ask you to make an initial posting to introduce yourself. There's a little bit of information here from the discussion forum on how to do that, but say who you are, your hometown, maybe your country, something interesting about yourself, can be anything, and what you hope to achieve in this course. That's what we're thinking about. I want to get to know each other. So let's begin our SEM learning journey. I thank you very much for your time, and see you in class.